First things first, you want to take everything out of the packaging and get it laid out on the table. Lay it out like this so you can see everything. We're going to start out with assembling the manifold to the bracket. Step 2. So this is for a Timbersled install. We're going to be mounting the manifold to the bracket, putting the gauge and the fittings on. And you're going to need a 3/8 combination wrench, 5/32 Allen, an 11, 14, and 22 wrench. The gauge goes on the front face, the sensor goes on the upper face, and the 2 straight Army-Navy fittings that you got out of this packet is going to go here and here. Make sure to put thread sealant on all the threads, get it assembled. Once you get the manifold assembled, it should look like this. Straight coming out each side, gauge on the front, sensor face on the top. We're now going to mount it to the back of the side bracket like this. That'll be the next step. Shot 4. Once you get the manifold attached to your side bracket, this is how it'll look, assembled. Top down. We're now going to grab the other side bracket and assemble the bottom mount. So, step 5. First thing you're going to do, we're going to take the O-ring out of the package and we're going to put the O-ring into all the grooves of the bottle clamp. Then we're going to take our socket-headed cap screws with a washer first and assemble the bottom between the 2 side brackets. 6. This will be what your assembled bracket bottom half looks like. The manifold attached. You can see the O-rings are in their slots. Leave your top halves to the side for now. And you're going to grab your second batch of hardware. Now we're going to set the Timbersled brackets onto the bottom half. 7. Looking at your bottom half Timbersled brackets, which are these here, notice you've got a few options. So on the mountain horse setup, on a skinny, you're going to be going to the inside holes on all the brackets, so make it as skinny as you can. If you're going with a standard LT, the wide one, then you go to the outside holes. Now, if you're doing an aero, on the bottom bracket, the high side is facing the front of the snow bike. On the left side, looking from the rear, you're going to use the inside holes. So you can put it on this hole here. And on the other side, we actually use the outside hole to canter it away from the exhaust. So outside on the right, inside on the left. This video we're getting ready to put it on an aero, so that's how we're going to assemble it. 9. Once it's all assembled for your Timbersled aero, this is how it'll look. Right side will be on the wide section, left side on the skinny section. 10. So once the lower bracket for your Timbersled aero is assembled, you're going to remove the factory bolts on both sides just in the front here. And then you're going to drill it to a 5/16 hole. Then go ahead and set the bracket over it. You're going to put your bolts through to locate it. Measure the distance between the top of the tunnel and the bottom of the bracket. Go to the rear, set that same distance. You're going to make a mark. You're going to drill a hole through the side for your bolt anchoring. 11. This is what it'll look like once it's assembled to the aero. Once again, take note, the left and right side offset, washer, and nylon nut mounted on the inside. 12. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to grab both of your braided lines. You're going to attach your 90/90 to the rear of the manifold and your 45 straight long one to the front. Go ahead and tighten those down with a 15 wrench. 13. Then you're going to grab the bottle and the top clamps and bolts. Go ahead and get the bottle mounted to the bracket. 14. But then you're going to grab the bottle nut. This ends up going through here, but we have to attach the Army-Navy fitting to this first. So we're going to put Loctite on these threads, attach it to here, put it through and attach it to the bottle. Once you get the bottle nut assembled, go ahead and tighten it to the bottle and then attach your 90 line to the Army Navy fitting. Now that the nitrous bracket and everything is assembled to the rear of the bike, you're going to go ahead and remove the seat, the rear tail section, and the silencer. You've got the 4 Torx bolts that hold this rear tail shaft on, the 2 8mm on the silencer. Come over this side, same thing, there's a Torx down here and one hiding in here. You also have to remember to unplug the intake air temp sensor, which is right here. Unplug that and loosen up the clamp going to the throttle body in here. It's a 6mm or a Phillips head. Once you get that tail shaft off, move on to the next step. 17. Now you got the tail section of the bike off. Lay it like this where the intake air temp sensor is facing down. We're going to be making a mark on the rib forward closer to the motor to where we're going to be drilling the hole to install our nitrous bushing. It is extremely important. This is where the nitrous sprays into the motor. There's a hole there. That hole is facing towards the motor, towards the back of the throttle body. If you have an aftermarket intake, such as a Yeti, Timbersled, some other custom one, you have to make sure that this nozzle is closer to the engine and the intake air temp sensor is behind it, farther away. If this nozzle sprays the intake air temp sensor, it will freeze it and throw the fueling off in left field and the bike will literally shut off. So keep it closer to the engine, ahead of it, and you'll be good to go. So go ahead and drill this hole. We're going to install this bushing from the inside out, put the nut on top. 18. Once you get the bushing and nut installed, I do recommend putting a little Loctite on this. You're going to take your nozzle, make sure that you've got a mark where the hole is, go ahead and thread it in, and when you tighten it down, make sure that you have something holding the bushing on the inside from spinning so you can tighten it and keep the red dot facing towards the back of the throttle body. 19, go ahead and rehang your tail section. Next step's going to be to assemble the nitrous solenoid. 20. Now I'm going to assemble the fittings into the nitrous solenoid. Pay attention to where it says in and out. On the out, you're going to put the brass fitting. On the in, we're going to put the 8th to -4 Army Navy fitting. Remember to use thread sealant on the pipe threads. Once you have it assembled, this is how it will look. Remember, brass goes on the out, Army Navy is on the inlet. Then going to grab this and use it as a template. We're going to drill a couple holes in the rear fender to mount the solenoid up. 22. So the nitrous solenoid is going to sit inside the air box, just like so. You're going to use the backing spacer here as a template. So you're going to mark that, put a couple marks, drill your holes, and this goes on the back side as a backing plate, and then screw the solenoid right here. At the same time, you're also going to want to open up a small hole. This one's a little bit large, but all we need is a small enough hole to fit the nitrous line through along with the wiring harness. This will be 23. So before you actually attach the solenoid to the fender after you get the hole drilled, it's way easier to attach the lines first. So go ahead, make sure that the solenoid Army Navy is facing the hole you just drilled, attach it to the line, then grab your blue nitrous line. Don't cut it yet, but feed it into it and tighten it up. 24. This is what it'll look like when the solenoid's mounted. Keep the bottom bolts out so you can pivot the rear fender up so you can bolt it. And there's your washers and your 2 screws. 25. Now we're going to do the harness. So pressure sensor gets plugged in, put a little zip tie around this rib, and run the harness down, and you're going to zip tie it along the nitrous line all the way up, go down through your hole. We supply extra line because if it's a long track and somebody has a fuel can and they want to put the bottle in the very far tail, you need this extra line. For a short track with the bottom moved all the way forward, you're just going to coil it up real nice. You're going to connect the wire to the solenoid, put Put a little dielectric grease in there if you have some. Run the wire up here, it's going to plug into the ECU. This pigtail, you're going to route through the factory harness right behind here, and you connect your bullet connectors to the map switch up on the handlebars here. After we get that far, we're going to then take your nitrous line, connect it to the intake manifold. We've taken the nitrous line. If you got an aftermarket intake or tail section, you shouldn't have to drill a hole. This is an 18 KTM 450, so we had to pop a little hole. We've taken the nitrous line and fed it through there, and we've cut it to length so it fits into the nozzle. We're then going to take the rest of your bag with your jet kit. We're going to start assembling. This is pretty important here. First things first, you're going to take the cap and slide that on. You're then going to take the ferrule, slide that back. The anti-crimp piece, stick that in the end. Until it's bottomed out. This is the nitrous jet. It's extremely important that this goes here and not back somewhere else or in front of the solenoid. We put this here so we deliver liquid nitrous all the way to the nozzle. If you pay attention, we never ever go from a small line to a big line, because if the liquid nitrous turns into a gas and you inject gas in the motor, the effect is little to none. So we're making sure that we're getting liquid nitrous spraying into the motor. So the jet has to go here. So then you put that on, push that there. Now, grab a little bit of Loctite and just put a dab on the threads, make sure not to get any in the hole. And then when you put this on, you have to make sure that you do not spin the nozzle. So pay attention to your pink mark on the nozzle so it doesn't spin while you tighten it. So once it's finger tight, you're going to grab a wrench, hold the nozzle, tighten it down, don't over tighten it, just nice and snug, and that part's done. Now that the blue line is connected to the nozzle, obviously you need to get your harness laid back over, get everything else plugged in, your intake air temp sensor, cross-check that your throttle clamp is tight, get all that back assembled. When it comes to the ECU that goes on last, this just sets in its stock location, plugs into the factory harness, your two connectors plug into the pigtails, and then you would move on to, if you haven't already done the handlebars and thermostat yet, you would move on to that. If that is already complete and this is your last step, you can go ahead and reassemble all your plastics, gas tank, and everything. You're good to go.